This is just something else. Absolutely incredible. Today is race day. Yeah, feels surreal that this is actually going to happen. And now heading to registration. In 2024, the race started near Belgium in the French city Roubaix and finished in Istanbul. Along the way there were 4 checkpoints in Slovenia, Bosnia, Kosovo and Turkey, and 6 so-called parcours, mandatory sections that often lead to remote off-road tracks where no road bike has ever gone before. After seeing this historic velodrome on race live streams for so many times, it felt surreal to actually be here myself. The time was already ticking, but I didn't rush and took the time to cherish this moment. Immediately after, the first parkour started and we got stuck at a traffic light on a narrow track. On the bright side, this helped spread out the field, and as we continued on, we also met the first roadside supporters. After an occasional unpaved section, it was time for the cobbled climbs. We were lucky that the road was dry, since even the pros struggled to get up these punchy climbs when wet. At the top of each climb, there was a group of fans cheering on, and we had received a heads up that there would be a special surprise at the final climb of the start parkour in Gerardsbergen.
Transcontinental Race No10, number 27. Hey. Come on.
The start parkours are done, and I gotta say it was pretty fun. A lot of cobbled climbs, some off-road as well. While the legs are still fresh, it's pretty nice. I think my favorite ones and the hardest ones were, I think, Pattenberg and Koppenberg. Yeah, super nice. And the celebration at the moor in Gerardsbergen, absolutely amazing. But yeah, feeling fresh, no signs of sleep, and yeah.
The rest of the night was quite uneventful.
It's a bit past midnight, standing at an empty traffic light because rules.
I moved steadily through Belgium without much traffic, big cities, or even other riders. And just around dawn, I reached Germany.
Good morning. So I successfully survived the night. Some parts were difficult, but overall it was an easy night. And I think it's because Belgium is very densely populated and just generally has a lot of infrastructure, so everything is super well lit and it doesn't really feel like night most of the night.
The morning was nice, and as I rode past these wind turbines, I tried to get rid of silly pop songs that were stuck in my head. Eventually, I reached the city Bonn, and there I joined a beautiful road along the Rhine River. I tried to take advantage of a good tailwind and push on without long stops, but in the afternoon was starting to feel lightheaded, and decided to stop for a meal.
I'm in McDonald's.
Cycled a bit more, stocked up as much food as I could for dinner and breakfast, and after the first 24 hours and 600 kilometers, decided to call it a day and park in Heidelberg.
Good morning. So I've been running about for an hour. It's 5:30 in the morning and the sun's about to come up. Feeling pretty good in terms of, you know, cycling for 24 hours and then sleeping for 5.
If I remember correctly, on this day I didn't meet any other riders. With previous days' score of 2 or 3, the roads felt quite lonely. However, turning away from Rhine and its cities was a nice change that opened up new roads that I quite enjoyed.
My first categorized climb. Woo! I don't know, maybe 20, 30 kilometers from Munich. And I've got to say this has been a really successful day and quite fun actually. I had the first mountains.
Hold that thought. When I say mountains, I don't really mean mountains. You see, I come from a small country in Northeast Europe called Latvia that is actually one of the flattest countries in the world. Its highest point is mere 312 meters, and the largest paved climb is a laughable 65 meters. And just to get to it, I have to cycle 50 kilometers. So for me, almost any bump in the terrain is a mountain.
I had the first mountains, and yeah, just going better than expected. So my goal is to get as far away from Munich as possible, just so I don't have to pay as much for the hotel.
Even though Munich was the largest city yet, for me it was one of the highlights in Germany, and I wouldn't mind coming back here for a vacation. I stopped for the night just 20 kilometers after Munich to avoid rain forecasted for the night. And so, after about 2 days and almost 1,000 kilometers, I concluded the easiest part of the journey.
Very hard morning. I ended up day on a high note, but waking up today was really difficult. I think I spent 40 or maybe even 50 minutes from the time like my alarm rang to when I actually properly got on the bike.
The roads in Bavaria were the best so far, and every little town was full of scent from the local bakery that was the only place open at early morning hours. Soon I arrived at Salzburg in Austria, and the excitement from the approaching Alp mountains was building up. After all, I get to climb more than 70 meters across a single hill, at best a few days per year. Similar to most leaders, I chose to cross the Alps over Tauern Pass and Kachberg Hoche. Another option was Hochdor, that peaked at 2,504 meters. It seemed a bit easier, but I decided to skip it because the last and only time I've cycled at a similarly high altitude was 3 years ago. Also, the weather was questionable, so staying 800 meters lower seemed reasonable.
Woo!
Even though descending makes me really anxious, I always try to push myself to become better at it. Here, my top speed for both descents was 89 kilometers per hour. I didn't record anything on the second pass because honestly, I was too busy suffering. It pinched up to 20%, and near the top I spent a full 7 minutes grinding at a cadence of 39 revolutions per minute. My highest rear to front gear ratio was just 32/34, which for me meant that anything above 12% for an extended period of time was quite tough. I like to optimize my setup, but also stay resourceful and reasonable. Besides tires, I don't buy equipment specifically just for one race, and given that most of the time outside this race I'll be riding on flat terrain, changing the crankset and possibly the cassette just didn't seem worth it. I rolled through the rest of Austria, and in the afternoon I reached Italy. No disrespect to Austria, but I immediately felt a much stronger connection with Italy, and the sight of the Julian Alps ahead literally took my breath away. Pedaling softly towards my hotel at the foot of the hills, I soaked up every moment and briefly forgot that I'm even in a race.
Buongiorno. Such a great morning. I slept for an hour later just so I can climb up to CP1 in daylight, because this really was one of the highlights for the route, and I definitely wanted to see it. Like my the place where I stayed was literally like 200 meters from the start of the climb. So from the very get-go, just injecting a mountain in morning legs. But the good thing is that there was coffee, so I also took a bit of time to really prepare myself for the day, and I think it's paying off. Feeling pretty okay. Definitely feeling happy. Like the caffeine detox before the race is really working. I didn't even skip coffee for that long. So 2 weeks before the race, I decreased 2 daily cups to 1 cup. And those are like office cups, which are smaller than my homebrew cups. And then only 4 days before the race, I actually completely cut coffee. Otherwise I just wouldn't survive work, really. And yeah, didn't have any headaches. The transition was very smooth, and every day now when I drink coffee, I just almost instantly feel the difference. Absolutely crazy.
Everything sort of fell in place, and this climb ended up being the most magical experience I have ever had on a bike. I felt like my power was limitless, and I rose up the mountain and its rugged tunnels together with the morning sunlight.
I mean, this is just something else. Absolutely incredible.
At the top, a mandatory look at my bike leaning against Thing's photo, and then came the descent. After here, there was one more 10 kilometers long, 10% steep climb to the first checkpoint, and shortly after leaving it, the excitement wore down and I realized I'm actually really tired from all this climbing. I had been looking forward to Slovenia a lot. For such a small country, it has incredibly beautiful and diverse nature and a perplexingly large footprint in professional sports. However, I just didn't have the energy to appreciate it. I just dug my head down and made miles. So in the end, of all days, on this one I had the shortest stop time. For nearly 14 hours of ride time, I stopped for just an additional 1.5 hours. And after breakfast in Krijanska Gora at 10:40 a.m., for the rest of the day, I stopped only for 44 minutes. This enabled me to reach Croatia and move past Zagreb comfortably within daylight, concluding the second stretch of this amazing journey.
Oh, hello! This is the morning of 5th day, and I'm pretty close to the border of Croatia and Bosnia. It was very hard to wake up today because the hotel had basically perfect sleeping conditions. There were the metallic blinds, so basically the room was just like pitch black. There was air conditioning and the bed was comfortable. So started a bit later than maybe should have, but I also don't really have any expectations for the day because I'm not gonna make it to the second control point, but it feels like whatever I do, I will get there tomorrow. So this is feels like a transition day or something, I don't know. But yeah, I'll just stick to my schedule and see where I end up.
Balkans have a reputation for freely roaming dogs, and just shortly after crossing the border, I met the first one.
Hello, so I'm in Banja Luka, Bosnia, and having a bit of trouble eating and drinking. Nothing seems too appetizing, and even though right now it's plus 35 degrees on the road, I mean their temperature is a bit lower, but on the road Garmin shows plus 35. So, with that temperature, in the last 6.5 hours, I drank, I think, less than half a liter of water. I mean, of course, I drank a lot in the morning, but still. So stopped to resupply, eat and drink something. Wanted to be inside where there's air conditioning, but in this country it's allowed to smoke indoors, so feeling pretty sick if I'm spending more than a few minutes inside. But yeah, got some mineral water here. I hope it's salty enough, that might help. And booked my place for the evening, so 150 kilometers to go. With some zigzagging around a prohibited section.
Bosnia had many roads that the organizers prohibited. Along my route, it was just a short stretch, but in order to get around, I had to climb steep ramps to the edge of the city, descend through a field, make my way through bushes, climb a fence, then more bushes.
Woo!
Finally join a decent road and descend back down almost to the main road to once again climb steep ramps, and then finally a few kilometers of gravel. Overall, It was actually quite fun, and a few hours later, I wrapped up my day. It was a mere glimpse of what was ahead of me for tomorrow. Next day started with lots of climbing up to Bielashnica, the host city of multiple Winter Olympic events in 1984, and here is where the second parcours began.
It's actually been a hard morning. Didn't sleep too well because there was a party just outside the hotel. Basically, instead of being in the bed, I moved to the bathroom. Slept also less, just so I can start early. And then a lot of climbing. And now this. As I'm enjoying a chill morning walk along some rocks, I also wanted to say that it was a very cold morning actually. Coldest one so far, and probably the coldest one of the race for me. Was climbing up the mountain. Up to here it was 6 degrees at some point. And there was even a slight downhill, so yeah, I pushed my kit a bit to the limit, but since it was only for a brief moment, like, it was fine. Basically, it was still in just jersey, vest, and rain jacket. Which is also the only clothes I have, really. But now it's sunny. It's nice. There's one guy ahead of me. But we're not racing. We're just vibing. It's pretty good. Oh. But this beast, woo, 10% for 1 kilometer. No way I'm riding up that.
Besides unnecessarily wrecking equipment, I'm at peace with these off-road sections. Especially if it leads through an interesting place like this one, and not just for the sake of going off-road. It's hard for everyone, and it's slow for everyone. As long as you're moving, might as well try to enjoy it. At the CP2 hotel, I had ran out of food, so immediately ordered 2 omelets. Turns out one portion was already a gigantic 5-egg omelet with some cheese and bread. Still managed to finish it. The rest of the parkour was a fantastic descent, right after which came an important decision point. 100 kilometers on the road or 40 kilometers off-road. Everybody just before me took the off-road choice, and I felt that they also made the decision for me. And this is where the going got really tough. Most of the time I was focused on just surviving, so didn't record much. But I did get a few shots on the easier sections.
It was plus 6 degrees in the morning, and now here on the road it's plus 40. But yeah, more than 6 hours of ride time, plus hike a bike, and I haven't even reached 100 kilometers. Super tough. Morale's pretty low right now. Around 6 kilometers to go.
After these 6 kilometers, there was a small settlement, the only one along this stretch of road. There were 4 of us on the section close by, and naturally we all stopped to reset. The guy on the right, Mark Kowalski, is on the phone with the organizers, telling that he's scratching because he forgot his passport at CP2 and there's no way he's going back, even though it was just 30 kilometers away. That gravel section really was that bad. Once again, feeling a good road surface felt euphoric, but in the background, another challenge had been brewing up since early morning. My left Achilles tendon was progressively becoming more and more painful, the kind of sharp pain that can't be ignored. During one of the rest stops, I used a lemonade can as a makeshift foam roller to alleviate tight spots in the calf with the hope that it would relieve the tendon. And it actually worked. By evening, almost all of the pain had subsided, and the next day, it was as if nothing had happened. I was back on the road, and it was beautiful. But the problems didn't stop there. But I'll leave that for tomorrow morning's vlog.
Hey, so this is day 7. I'm in Serbia and getting quite close to Montenegro. So I didn't record anything yesterday evening because, to be honest, it was an incredibly difficult day, both physically and mentally. Besides the roughly, 50 kilometers of gravel with steep hills, hike-a-bikes, and just in general 4,500 meters of climbing. Yeah, it was also hard emotionally because I hadn't planned. Basically I hadn't even uploaded the route through Serbia. I didn't think I would consider it, but then I saw from the people ahead that it just is faster and decided to go for it. But because I'm kind of improvising and my Garmin is really I guess adventurous, it leads me off some weird roads. So yesterday I accidentally took a detour that resulted in this completely unnecessary 500 meters of climbing, and then had to stay up later than usual and just really felt uncomfortable, completely out of my comfort zone, and a bit anxious about the whole situation. But fortunately everything turned out well. Managed to wake up today. On time. And so far day's been pretty good. Still quite a lot of climbing, but once I get into Kosovo it will calm down for a while.
In countryside Serbia, the situation was calm, but contrary to what I believed at the moment, nothing would calm down once I reached Kosovo. It would only get worse.
The plains of Kosovo just really burn you. I couldn't even cycle for an hour without stopping, really. I have 2 bottles for just drinking and flushing water on my head. There's no way to even keep it because in 20 minutes it's super warm. And then I also try to keep some bottles under my jersey to try and keep cool. Oh, but yeah, this is ridiculous.
I tried everything and stopped to cool down every 5 kilometers or so, but at some point, nothing helped. The heat got me. In the evening, when the temperature was decreasing, I still couldn't get rid of the heat. I felt powerless, broke down in tears, and decided to end the day early in Prizren, just shortly after 8 p.m. I decided to not put an alarm clock and just sleep for as long as my body needs. Yesterday was tough and did some damage, but today completely torched me.
Good morning. I'm now riding to CP3 from Prizren, where I should have gone yesterday evening, but to be honest, yesterday was just cruel. At peak, Garmin showed 42.6 degrees, I think, and you know, while that might not be that bad if you just go outside and that's the way it is, but it was above plus 30 at 9 a.m. You then accumulate 2,000 meters of climbing in that heat, and then you descend into a valley, Kosovo, which basically just puts you in an oven. There's literally like no escaping. Even the wind was hot. Like literally descending was worse than riding at, like, not even riding, just trying to physically move. And I tried everything. I was stopping, I think, I was stopping every 5 kilometers, I think. I don't know how much water I drank, but in the end it just got to me. Like, I just couldn't. Yeah. Moving was just pain. And not the kind of, you ascend a mountain and maybe it's painful, but at least it's rewarding. Yeah, yesterday it just felt wrong. I would never want to do that again, but unfortunately it seems like I'm gonna do that again today and tomorrow as well. So you might be asking, oh, why not ride in the night? Well, I hate riding in the night. I don't see anything fun about trying not to fall asleep and then just looking at your light for 8 to 10 hours, and then the next day is ruined as well, to be honest. Yeah, so I will adapt my strategy. I think for the hottest time of the day I'll just take a sit-down meal somewhere inside with like aircon, because there's no point of competing. If I get a heat stroke and have to quit or something like that. So while I'm good, competition is on. But if things change, I'll just do anything to get going. So yeah, took a hotel. At some point was contemplating about even waiting for breakfast. It should be like 9. But in the end I decided I'll just leave I won't set an alarm, and then whenever I wake up and then I go. And that was 4:30. It took me a bit of time to pack and stuff, but yeah, here I am. It's 5:45 right now, and just easing into the day.
After the third checkpoint, I gained confidence that I will actually finish this race. It felt like any future challenge would just be an iteration of what has already been experienced. It was still very hot.
I'd love to be in that lake right now.
But I managed to find a nutritional strategy that worked well for me. 2 ice creams and almost a liter of juice every 2 hours or so, with mineral water and regular water in between. Even though many people follow TCR online, you don't meet many people along the route, since everybody has their own. Hence, it was a nice surprise to meet an enthusiastic dot watcher at a gas station. That contributed to a warm feeling about North Macedonia. There was even a different tint to the environment, and something that I can't really describe made me feel at peace. I slept next to Doiran Lake, just at the border with Greece. Just 2 more countries to go, but still more than 1,200 kilometers. Greece was the only country where I didn't mind cycling through the cities at all. It had an authentic, unique atmosphere, and I loved to experience it. My favorite city was Alexandroupolis, and this one, Kavala, felt like a postcard photo.
Grinding long straight roads with a shoulder, which is basically my thing. That's what I do back at home all day, every day. So yeah, I really feel like this is my day to make a move. It's going pretty well. I think I'll get to Turkey by the end of the day, and if I feel good, I'll just keep going.
Since Kosovo, something in me changed. The heat was no longer that big of a deal, but this adaptation seemed to have come at a cost of temporary brain damage. Hopefully, temporary. Here I am rambling about cycling through the night to move up the leaderboard, but at this point I should know better. Getting through the day is hard enough. Exploiting a moment of energy doesn't mean gaining something, rather just borrowing a bit from the future.
Pretty cooked right now. It's, let me check, 15 to 2. Wait, 15 to 5. So pretty much the peak of heat of the day, and I decided to take a longer break. Actually have a meal since I'm in Greece. That's wine leaves with rice.
After the so-called wine leaves with rice, I took a nap on the same bench to clear my brain fog. It didn't fully resolve the problem, and it's a shame I didn't record more, because Greece was a true highlight. And here I also experienced the most vivid golden hour of the tour that no phone camera will do justice. After Alexandroupolis, it was the stiffest headwind yet, but I was stubborn enough to make it to the final country of the journey, Turkey. I slept well, looked decent, and was looking forward to the final part of the race. The road was full with small hills, easy enough to not be a challenge and hard enough to keep it interesting.
I'm in Gelibolu, made it to the ferry, barely. You know, like the cars are already getting off. Literally sprinted last kilometers. Damn, it was crazy. Also so much gravel, like at least 20 kilometers already. Crazy stuff today.
After the ferry, there was a nice tailwind, and it didn't take me long to get to CP4. In this picture, it looks like I've been places, even though internally I felt full of energy and life. However, after CP4, I was definitely going places.
Right, I checked in at CP4, which is great news. But what's coming next, honestly, like, really worries me. Because it's like 8 hours of no resupply. The parkour is really difficult. I mean, 100k, 8 hours. And I'll be starting it in basically the hottest part of the day. But I just don't see any other option. Like, I don't want to do it at night. And I don't want to waste basically a full day of waiting until the next day. So this is going to be for the bottles. All of this is basically food that goes in here. Yeah, because even if I make it through, I still might have to camp outside and then still do some more in the morning. And then these two will go. The wind is pretty strong as well. So these two will go behind the jersey, and these two will go in the jersey pockets. So this is like 1, 2, 3, 4.5, 5 liters of liquid, which might seem a lot, but it's freaking plus 38 to 40 degrees on the road. So 5 liters just goes down like it's nothing. Jesus Christ, this wind. It's been, I don't know, 2, maybe more hours since I left the city. Everything's alright, just having something to eat and drink. Been some climbing, but the road's still paved. Now there's gonna be a downhill, and then all of the climbing starts. And there's all of the climbing of the parkour, which is really significant. And I suspect that's gonna be off-road. So yeah, so far it's been relatively chill. But that's about to change.
The hard thing about riding off-road with a road bike is that there's no space to relax both physically and mentally. On the climbs and straight sections, you have to stay vigilant the whole time and constantly shift your weight forwards, backwards and sideways to keep balance and not puncture over rocks. When descending, you can't accumulate speed, otherwise your tires just skid when braking. You absorb all the vibrations with your body, and after a while, your fingers and other muscles just start to cramp. That's fine for a while, but for hours on end, this process spends energy that you don't really have. This parkour wasn't as technical as the one in Bosnia, but at this stage of the race, and with 1,300 meters of climbing, it took me almost 5 hours to complete these mandatory 59 kilometers.
Yes. We survived the off-road downhill. And now it's road. All kind of patchy boy, but road nonetheless. So far I'm actually pretty happy. Okay, I mean, look at this. What? Course 4 is done, and damn, that was hard. I was also getting cranky because I wanted to eat. Could really feel that I'm just getting irritated, but I also just really wanted to push till the end. So was repeating a mantra, just like to stay focused, don't make any mistakes, because if I would have had a mechanical, I think morally that would have destroyed me. But I made it just as the sun set, like literally the last kilometer. I could still see where I was going, and now I have to hold the flashlight to record this video. So yeah, I just stopped less than a kilometer further to eat, and feels kind of interesting just to be almost quite literally in the middle of nowhere in Turkey. Even if I would come here on vacation, I can't imagine a single reason why I would be where I am right now. Doing what I'm doing right now. But I guess there's nothing to worry about. I mean, the night is super warm. So yeah, we'll just maybe go for an hour still, and then find a place to settle down in a hotel of 1,000,000 stars, aka outside.
At the time, this dirty, forgotten sofa seemed like a great place to settle down, but in retrospect, it wasn't. Looking now at the pictures, it seems pretty obvious that this is somebody's home, because the satellite dish is still fresh. The fatigue had hit me hard, and at the time, I could only see the ancient sofa. I couldn't fall asleep though, and when I did, the person who lived here came back home. I jumped up, but he waved at me, said, "No problem," and just went inside. Does this count as support? You be the judge, but I definitely paid for it, because the day after was the worst in all of TCR, and I recorded just one video during the whole day.
It's a bit past midday. I am absolutely cooked. It's just so hard to get going. Slept terrible in a 1,000,000-star hotel. Try to push as much as I can, like before the heat ramps up. And now, I don't know. I know there's a way to stay positive, but my mood just has really spiraled out of control. And there's nothing really to, I don't know, push it in the other direction. Because the roads are extremely I can't even explain. The scenery is quite boring. It's kind of the same. Like for the first hour it's like, yeah, this is cool. And then next 15 hours are the same. A lot of climbing, which is fine if it's not 38 degrees. Yeah, and I'm just so sleepy. I'm fighting every minute just to stay awake. I just want to get this day over with.
Was the road surface bad? Yes, but it was a road. Was there a headwind? Yes, but not that strong. Was the scenery mundane? Yes, but there's always something to find if you're willing to look for it. The lack of sleep was severely exacerbating my problems, and I knew I had to reset. I wanted to finish in less than 12 days, but more importantly, I wanted to finish with a feeling that I'm still enjoying this. I stopped in Bursa and had no idea if I could actually cover more than 300 kilometers with almost 5,000 meters of climbing on the last day. But I was willing to try, and I'm glad I did.
Almost done with a climb that averaged something like 17% for nearly a kilometer. Holy smokes. It's almost like day and night yesterday. I feel happy.
A few kilometers after this moment, it was over. There is no finished spectacle. Just a brief moment of attention where the organizers greet you with a round of applause and kindly ignore just how stinky you are. A finished photo and some questions from the media team. You still need to book a hotel, buy clothes, take a shower and eat. It will take weeks to fully process what has happened. This was my first TCR, and I finished it in 11 days, 22 hours and 17 minutes. Being the 24th rider to reach the finish and 23rd in the final GC. It often feels absurd to pour thousands of euros in this hobby, and I question my decisions all the time. But the experience, the emotions, the inspiration and the race has cemented the feeling that I love ultra cycling. This is just the beginning.
Definitely still eating way too much. food comas every day. Istanbul is definitely a place where to eat too much food.